Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. Now, data, they say, plays a crucial role in the life of every nation, planning development. While trying to prepare for this program, I tried as much as possible to get available data showing the number of deficits that we have in Nigeria concerning housing issues. One data says, as of 2023, Nigeria had a deficit of 22 million. Another data says, Nigeria has a deficit of over 28 million. Now, that in itself is a problem if we do not even know the numbers. We do have an expert in the house this morning. I asked him off camera. He also gave me a different figure. So let's start this from there, because if we do not even know where we are, how do we plan to get out of that current situation? We have Dr. Moses Ogunleye in the studio this morning, Managing Director, MOA Planners Limited. Thank you for being here, Dr. Ogunleye.
Thank you.
Right. Let's talk about data, because if you're planning anything, then you must know where exactly you stand as a nation before you start thinking of how to bridge a deficit. Now, three numbers that we have this morning, depending on where we're sourcing from anyway. So you also are a researcher and you are in this sector. For you, which is the closest number to deal with at this moment? 17 million? 18, 22, talking about urban housing deficits in Nigeria?
Well, if you start with 17, we'll be mentioning 17 for almost a decade.
Okay.
Or 9 years. So if you, there's a deficit because there's a shortage between supply and demand. Then if you now do a figure to say, it means the number we are providing or producing every year is not enough to take care of what we need. Then you now look at a percentage. It means 17 will have increased substantially. But more importantly, I don't believe in the figure. I've queried it. Now, are we saying there's a shortage, which is worrisome? Are we saying 20 million units, or that 20 million Nigerians are homeless or don't live in habitable accommodation? So we have to do a breakdown of that. Number one, there's a shortage. In that shortage, how many number of persons are not inhabited, are not well habited? Then how many families are living in poor condition of housing?
Okay.
So if you're able to disaggregate to that level, then we know where we are going. There's a shortage. I just did a paper, and we are looking at Nigeria is the highest too. We had it for
Africa.
Yeah, we had it. If you use that, even if you use 17, Congo, the Brazzaville has less than 1.5, Kenya less than 2 million, and these are facts by IFC and Shelter Africa. You know, saying these are the gaps that we have. So our gap
is high.
Is
Will
high.
that also be because of our population?
Yeah, we have the largest population, and minus Cairo, Lagos is the second mega city, over 10 million. That will qualify you to be a mega city. So those are the challenges that we have. And there's pressure on all our major cities. People leave rural areas to come and reside in urban centers, and that's a big challenge for us as a nation. The gap is there, and it's huge.
Okay.
Okay. According to what the federal government is saying, and of course attested to by the Minister of Housing, is about 28.28 million for units of houses, and it said it needs about 5.5 trillion naira to address that year on year. I'm moving beyond that because one, I have seen so many people profile solutions as to how we can actually address this thing, because the funding is a challenge. At one point, they said we need to perhaps go into a pension fund to actually source for funding to address this. Some people said, look, we need to import new technologies that make sourcing for material for building. So there are technologies now that will build houses, estates, without necessarily incurring that high cost. Some people said it is the land issue. It is domiciled with the state. It is inaccessible. It's difficult. Some people should free up their lands to build houses. So where would you say is the major challenge? Is it in the funding? Is it in the access to land? Is it in actually building efficient, sustainable housing for Nigerians?
Okay, let me say all the four. In housing, we break down to four. Land, policy, access to land, policy, technology, and finance. Let's start with finance. Now, why are our friends, associates abroad, in America and Britain, are able to have access to housing? It's because there is a source of funding within, you are working, your income makes you good, you can pay mortgage.
Mortgage, yeah.
And if you take a civil servant, directorate level, let's even say assistant director, Lagos or federal, how much does he or she earn to be able to access mortgage? What is the age of that staff? You can't be accessing mortgage at 50 or 55 for you to pay because of what you are earning. So what is the structure to make you access mortgage? Then what is the quantum of funds in that mortgage purse? So number one, we have that. Assuming I'm a funder, I have funds to provide housing, shelter, housing for people, and I want you to buy into it. I would say mortgage. If I'm doing outright sale, the price will be less. The cost, the price, because you are buying, will be less than if you are paying through mortgage. So we don't have a system that supports that. Like there is National Housing Fund, good, but even if you earn $500,000, how long will it take you to pay that mortgage? That's a critical challenge. If you can solve that, if you can enhance that, the more Nigerians will have access to housing. It's also good to, I don't want to say, affordability is about what you earn. I mean, if you earn well, you'll be able to afford where everybody wants to live in. Then you can now go to design matter. What do we design? What do we build for people that you can enhance as your status improves? So that's another strategy in construction. You can now, for instance, the interior, you can just do some mini work. The exterior, you can do, but as your status improve, you have more income.
Do more.
You now do not structural rework, but some decoration. You can say decoration. Do painting, do some improvement. So finance is a key challenge, and that is why those who are doing the real estate developers who naturally say it's a profit. You want to make profit. You don't set up an organization and you are not a non-profit. So that's a challenge. Now, if you look at access to land, it's a big problem. I know even we were somewhere recently, I was saying, even the minister has a challenge. That's the Minister of Housing and Urban Development. In state releasing land to him. Even in this Lagos, we know what happened when former Governor Fashola was minister. Lagos State didn't release land under government body to him. I know that. But states that released land to the minister, he was able to work on that. So it's a challenge. And it's not difficult. We know where the lands are, but...
Do you have land in Lagos?
There is land now.
But there's land.
Go to New Towns Development and Lands Bureau. They will tell you where the lands are.
They will tell you where lands are. Affordability is also a key issue here. I mean, you've mentioned go to NTDA, go to some of those places, and you'll be amazed at where they will show you that these properties are. But again, are these lands readily available? Are they affordable? Not available. Affordable to non-developers who really want to find a place to build?
Okay, you don't get a land just for the purpose of getting it. It's a means to, the end is to have housing, to have a house. I know there is a challenge not only in the States, all over. If there is a new place you have planned, how do you ensure that place become habitable if there is no infrastructure? Road,
health facilities,
drainage, power supply, water supply. Health facility, you can still travel some 1 or 2 kilometers, You can still take care of some if you have private facility. But somebody must be in charge of road. Somebody must be in charge of power supply. Even if you can do water, somebody must be in charge of water. Though people now have alternatives. They do wells and water. So it's a key issue. Even if the land is there, it will shock you, the information. I won't put it in there. Somebody, young man, middle level income, needed to was thinking he can buy land, and I have to approach a government agency on his behalf. Because government also have a target, have a budget. If you have 50 new development area, new towns that you have planned, government will say, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 this year. And the man is looking for where he can, a well-organized place. He lives outside Lagos, now one of the suburbs in Ogun. And I told him what he needs to bring, not bribe, official cost of accessing the land. He said, wow, because if you buy, then you need to build. That's another challenge. So, and at that point in time, where government will sell for him, road has not been provided. Government only guarantee that by next year they will do so. So infrastructure is also very key. In fact, in housing development, if a developer charges you, let's say 10 million, 5 million, to put up the structure, the cost of infrastructure is about 60%.
On the developer?
Yeah, of what he has built. So in other words, assuming he's able to subsidize infrastructure, the final cost will go down.
Okay, that brings us to raw materials, type of housing that Nigerians can afford. Because if you hear some houses now, average public servants like us can't even dream about that. It's not
rocket science.
And so I have heard about from someone that said, look, there are technologies that one can deploy and you get estates going that is affordable. Is that what we need, or better still, do government intervene in the area of materials, from building materials? I mean, to bring it down, to make, would that translate to affordable houses?
Because again, in addition, most of the building materials are imported. Just a few are locally produced.
Right. There have been attempts by government to intervene in, I'm trying to remember which of the government, national now, that was read on Real Estate Developers of Nigeria. In that policy document, there's what they call BOMPAM that should also have been established. That the BOMPAM is Building Material Producer Association of Nigeria. You are a group of building producers, producing roof doors. You are together. What can you do to manufacture locally? What can you do to, if you still need to import some components? That didn't take off. As Redan took off, I'm aware I was, doing some underground work for them. Now, maybe we should say housing in larger number, producing them in larger quantity, and just say less than what should have been. So even if with the earnings of Nigeria, no matter the technology you bring, technology will do more production.
Okay.
But technology
will not necessarily bring down the unit cost that will go to you and I. Maybe I agree with that, but is it public sector, finance, or private sector? I know what government is doing. Lagos is doing more, but because of the large population, it may not be as impactful as some of us would have wanted. If government is doing, then government will now reduce cost on infrastructure. After all, it's public budget they are using to do it. But for a developer, because in some other part of the world, it's the developer that is building. Right. All the developers, with all their friends, with all their marketing, no one can do 1,000 units. Yeah, in Nigeria. In 1 year, no one. 1,000 units is much. Well, no one. But in abroad, somebody will do 5,000 within a year. Mass production. He has the land. He will now say, I have big land. I'm building 4,000, 3,000 in a year. Then you have all purchased from. Your source of income has been verified. Right. He knows you can afford it. And you pay over a time. If you don't pay well, they take it back. That property is still your own equity.
Collaboration, again, is, what a lot of people are also thinking. You've also alluded to that fact here today that, of course, those in the sector, the developers, they are private sector driven. And, of course, they will think about their own profit, even in as much as they're trying to help out, prefer a solution to the challenges at hand. So here, when you talk about private sector collaboration, how can those banks set up be of help? Is there anything Power of Collaboration can achieve here? There is the Federal Mortgage Bank. I don't know if they still do.
They deduct money from.
Yes, the Federal, yes, Mortgage Bank, and the housing. Civil servants pay the housing policy. There's a contribution.
Yeah, National Housing Fund.
Fund.
2.5% of your salary. NHF.
Yes, the NHF.
Yeah.
And so, is there anything, those banks that were set up for things like this, any usefulness? Because why do we...
comfortable with the...
With the posture.
With the smile.
No, I'm just, I'm just
With the posture.
You know, bank, they can't really directly be beneficial to housing supply. It's interest now, it's interest rate. But that's why mortgage, which is mortgage banks, which are specifically set up.
But are we seeing the impact of the mortgage bank?
It's not vibrant as one would have expected.
So what should they be doing?
What's the meaning of vibrant?
Okay, you know now, National Housing Fund starts with 5 million. That's the best you can. And the interest is single digit.
Single, yes.
9% or something. So now you can assess that. The requirements are many, about 10 or 12. So people complain. Now what Federal Mortgage Bank, through the National Housing Fund, is now doing is to say, if Mr. Ayo, for instance, can't meet, or people are not coming forth, they now say, okay, let's do to private estate developers. They will assess you. You have that chunk loan from Federal Mortgage Bank. You build, and they now sort of regulate how much you can sell. I saw them doing that in part of Lagos, in Ikorodu,
okay, so
some estates.
if that is done, then can part of those who are contributors like us, who are contributing to the fund, can we in turn buy from, or do we have the first come, first serve basis because you're a contributor to the fund? Can that also be a boost to help you have access to those kind of buildings if you are a contributor into the NHF?
Yeah, I think they did that. They will reserve some percentage for contributors. Then, you know, the developer too, if contributor didn't come, for many reasons, they may not be aware that this man is building. And if you're a contributor in Badagry, and the Ojo area is your choice, and somebody building in Ikorodu, you may not really. But if you're a contributor and lives in Ikorodu and want to buy from me, it's an opportunity.
Okay. I need to ask the social impact of this housing deficit. We know that there is inflation as far as renting or, yes, getting a house, even to rent in Lagos, in urban centers are concerned, Abuja or Lagos, or even Port Harcourt as you have it. And that's the whole essence of, look, when you get to a particular age, there's this societal pressure. Like, so you've been working all these years. So, nearly, do you have house? So there's also the pressure, like, if you've got into this place, you should have your own house, buy land. It doesn't matter whether there's access to road, water, power in that place, in as much you have a house built somewhere. So how do you handle the pressure of living in urban centers? Because that is the painful part. Because look, you know you don't have that source of income. So as someone who is in this built sector, how do we begin to tackle this to make housing available to Nigerians? Because what you need, those are one of the fundamental needs of human beings: food, shelter, and clothing.
Well, I agree with you. Some of the opportunities that I had as a younger person, I regret those who are younger now don't have. For instance, you should be able to approach Lands Bureau in Lagos, Ogun State Housing Corporation, or your housing corporation, and say, I needed the land. You take a form, you fill it, they now tell you where the lands are, then you pay. I was able to pay gradually, 5,000, 10,000 until I finished paying. And I regret, can younger people now have that kind of opportunity? At 29, 30, I was buying. So I regret that. I'm not sure they have. Now, what should happen? We shouldn't be, the critical challenge is the access. If the houses are there, and you know, you just pick a form, somebody look at your work and it gives you. I know people in America, I'm changing my location. They are building my house. You think it's the one we are building in Nigeria. He's not the one, she's not the one building. Right. It's a developer that is building. And he or she will go there and say, this is what I want. You're going to pay over a couple of period or number of years and is happy to pay the mortgage. So what you said, and the scenario is changing. Many years back, I know people that would leave Lagos on a Friday, go to Ibadan, or go to Abeokuta, come back on Monday. Now I know people who, because of the societal pressure, after all, me, I have land. Have land far away from Ikorodu. I don't want to mention one town. It can't be insist, my friend. Okay, let me mention Igbogu.
I mean, you're doing PR for them now.
So you now, because you don't want to come to Alausa or Oregun every morning,
Every day.
you have Oregun house or Agidingbe house or Ikeja house.
And
And
then
you now
you
live
go there
for, and it
probably
happens.
over the weekend.
People in Ifo. And they, on Friday, because and they walk, Lagos Island, so heavy.
The train
so
will
it's
be
really,
working soon, so I'm sure that a lot of people will
you brought
do
in
that.
you brought in transport. If our cities are well planned,
I mean, there are people who stay
you could travel
outside.
3 kilometers.
Yes, you can
I know people who
actually do
leave UK 3 hours.
Yeah,
it's like
people
moving
live
from
in
Ilorin
Kent and they go to London.
Yeah, you won't mind. And in fact, you prefer to live outside
Outside
than
and
staying
then
in
work.
central London because you are happy, more green, more lush, less noise.
that. Less noise.
You're happy to
And then
to
you
live
can
there.
have your me time to even
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So you've talked about, mentioned, transportation as, one of the ways to get out of this situation. We can sit here and talk about this deficit for so long. What in the immediate can the federal government also step up on? Earlier, you mentioned the fact that it is even a problem for the federal minister himself, that these challenges are there. Former Governor Fashola also spent how many years as a Minister for Works? I'm sure there was bottlenecks he also saw and felt this could have been easy peasy. For you as a player in this industry, how much more can the government do so that we do not continue looking at this deficit, the numbers rising every year, and we're not able to tackle these challenges headlong?
Okay, because of the nature of the problem in the sector, we normally say housing is capital intensive. There was a policy, national housing policy, that says, and I joined them. We said federal government should have no business in housing, direct construction. Government should regulate, make the setting, the framework. Now later, it was changed. You can see the federal government say, I want to build, states building. I like the change. Even when you have encouraged private sector, the environment is not enabling enough for them to build. Okay. So let government continue to do the percentage that it can do. Let there be better access to land. And the data is still that 90% of the houses or homes that we have is still by you, private sector. Whether the one we call on-site developer, maybe your friend Muhyiddin, who is doing it gradually, December, come and help me to celebrate, I'm finished. How much the biggest contributor government agency in Nigeria is LSDPC. They've been doing that since 1972. FHA has not built the number of homes that LSDPC has built, whether directly or through joint venture. They are the biggest. So if you look at even the number that LSDPC has built, it's still minute compared to the challenge. So let's have more. Let state agencies continue to build. Let housing corporation continue to build. But the challenge, which I know is going to ask you also, when they build, what is the cost of that unit? Can you and I?
Because there's some of those properties lying there and people can't afford to pay some of the on those properties.
I know a minister in this country. He said he was actually querying the one developer and said, look, you said you want to build, you came to the government and you said, look, I want to build a mass housing for Nigerians, affordable. But when you build the least house, the least house there was about 60 million. And I said, this for Nigerians, and you said it's affordable housing. Okay, I thought that when you have all this, you hear names, this estate, and so many people have been swindled even by that. Yeah. You have so many developers, you have them all around. If you go outside
even developers swindle government. There was a program here in Lagos. They call it Private Estate Developer Scheme. Developer who thought they are smart, maybe government didn't do due diligence. They will give them land, because that's government equity. You get a land after 2 years, you haven't done anything. If it's your business, immediately they give you allocation. Even as you are getting allocation, 20, 50, 100 hectares, your plan should be available. In fact, you can start marketing it off-plan. People will start buying. If I trust you, I'll pay off-plan. I only need to come to the site and see what you are doing. So we don't have our policies are still not consistent. The actors are not active. People just venture into it to make small money. And when it's not favorable, they leave again. They want to reduce the risk, the loss, so that the losses will not be substantial. So it's we don't have big players. I mean, why should, it is real estate developer that should be taking big chunk of land. And you and I now go to them, not give to A, give to B, give to C. And that is why in some prime estates in Lagos, because of the cost of acquiring a land, somebody will now build, as we say, over density, where you're supposed to have 2 units. You now do 6. Because the cost of that land, they took me into a place somewhere around Maryland, and I told the developer, how much do you want to sell this? And I said, how much will somebody earn for him to buy? 250.
250
million.
Guess.
250 million.
Guess.
So
okay. How will you afford that? So before we allow you go, as you land on that, is this also why issues around developers using substandard materials will also be an issue? Thank God in recent times, the issues around building collapse are also reducing. But is this also a challenge where government and the private sector also needs to beef up support in that area?
Well, there should be intense monitoring so that we avoid that. But most developer knows that when that happens, it kills their business. If you have something ventures or developers, and I know one of your structure collapse, it's a problem for you. So they are also careful now. But you can have a few who are not serious players. None of the serious players, you won't hear that LSBC structure collapse. I don't want to mention the private estate. You won't hear that they are now more careful than before. It will demarcate you. The public will not trust you. I won't buy a form from you to say I want to, because you'll be looking at the risk of buying a property from you and the structure collapse, and if there are fatalities, it makes it worse for you. So we should regulate that too.
You've not sounded really positive for me this morning. Like, there's no hope anywhere that I'm going to get the land or the house that I actually wanted.
Where do you want it? Ikoyi?
I mean, state where you want
Can you
it.
imagine somebody want to send me back to my village?
I'm
working here in Lagos.
Go and build your retirement.
Don't send me back to my village.
They will do a train. If there's a train, you wave us in the evening.
You come every day, and then you'll go back.
Okay, so my own, for an average person, is there anywhere, you've talked about funding, we've talked about primarily about policies of government that will provide enabling environment. I'm sure you have also talked about, it's not necessarily about the technology that I've read about that will do that. It's about access and the volume of houses that will provide in time. But how can an average person, do you see any hope for someone watching now, and you want a house, you want a property that won't literally snuff life out of you, and know that in the next 10 years I can have my own property? What's the best way to go about it? After all, private people own majority of houses, not even government.
Yeah. It's a pity. I said at a workshop recently, less than a month. I know people's blood pressure goes up when their rent expires. But I've seen hope somewhere. Even Lagos Television tried it. I worked on it for you. There's what they call housing cooperatives. Cooperative society can now look more. You can buy land as a cooperative. And if you're a member of that cooperative, they give you a plot. Then what we can now do, government can now give some concessions, some rebates to anybody that comes, any group, maybe Ratau, NUJ, other bodies that come as a group There is in Lagos, there's what we call excise village. There was a time government say if you are doing a plan for excise village, you won't pay, you pay. I remember doing Governor Fashola, you pay 25% of what everybody should pay to get your layout processed. That usually brings down the individual cost because the cost will be spread for the group. So I see hope in that. Let the association society pursue that. That will only give you access to the land, not the houses or homes itself. But ordinarily, we shouldn't be building. Virtually, everybody has a bricklayer, has a painter, has iron bender. We shouldn't. The one you can have is a reference point for plumber. Every time there will be water issue in the home, there will be sewage. Just back there, I'm here, electrician to do, not a bricklayer or iron bender. You are building a house every Saturday. You are the site supervisor. They didn't bring material. Hardly enough. I hope I'm not hitting
you have not helped Baba Tana.
See, you are paid for roof. They didn't bring it.
But must everybody be a landlord?
Oh, I said it somewhere in that show. I said, what should be the concern of, but the prayer of Yoruba man, even in Africa, the prayer is you should have access, not necessarily to own it. If I say Gbogbo Akolama Nile, no. I said all of us should have a place to own. And for instance, if a friend designed for somebody 4-bedroom, and I said, no, do it this way. Do it there, maybe in the next 20 years. All the children are graduated. Just do it. Interior, you have 2-bedroom from 4-bedroom. You are older, you don't need too many people.
What
One
do you
room
need
for
for?
visitor. So those are the realities that we have to appreciate. It's a big challenge for us. When I say us, as a country, as a nation.
We probably need to leave this conversation here this morning. I would have asked you a final question, but time is fast spent. Perhaps when next you come, but maybe if you can do that in 30 seconds. Maybe this is also the time for Nigerians to start reorientating. Do we need to build grandiose houses?
Yeah, common sense now says you should build what you can manage. Yeah, what you can manage. Don't show
Because
good house.
You can't even sleep in more than one room.
Good area, breathe good air, happy with your room.
With your
room. Happy. This
with
is
your
my room.
room.
This is my space.
This kind of studios, like you can move and play lawn tennis.
So that when you even
in the
fall,
bedroom.
nobody will help you.
Yeah,
Okay, we need to go. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Dr. Moses Ogunlaye, MD, MOA Planners Limited. Thank you for always finding time to be here on the
pleasure.
program. All right, we'll take a quick break. The conversation returns, and on the other side with Adebimpe, another land matter. Of course, when you build, you do not have proper papers. And when government comes to demolish, you cry foul. Did you get your papers in the first place? Did you even buy from an appropriate authority? All of those questions Adebimpe will take with her guest when we return from the break.